Hello, Nicholas here. And I am coming to you just after the holiday in the US called Thanksgiving. Those of you who are in America obviously know what Thanksgiving is, but just in case international listeners is a thing, I'm in a little bit better spirits today. I'm at my studio again. Lovely. Hopefully on YouTube and other places you can see my lovely logo behind me, my decal on the wall. Anyway, I wanted to talk about responsibility, but in particular, as responsibility relates to words and representation and how you bring things forward or how you share things in general. Right? We're living in the age of what I call the bully. There's bullies everywhere, and they validate their use of aggression in many different ways and for many different reasons, all of which are selfish. And it really just accentuates our lack of connection, intimacy, and just general understanding of what it means to be human. The way people dehumanize others, whether it be immigrants or people who are of a different religion or people who think or believe differently than one group, and they point fingers, they degrade, they treat poorly, but all under the guise of right and wrong, moral versus immoral, good versus evil, right, wrong, bad, good. It's too much. And then we have people who have huge platforms, some of which the highest that the country offers, and they choose to say and share things that aren't true. And then people, because of their biases towards one position or another, automatically discredit people who actually may be and often are telling the truth and validating the person who's lying to them. And it's absurd, but it's also reflective of how busy our lives are, how fast paced, and how there's so little room for anybody to actively take the time to research. I mean, there are responsible people out there that do that. But what I want to talk about today is the people who are irresponsible with the way they bring information forward. Now, conspiracies exist. Some conspiracy theories end up being true. But in this world of plausible deniability and in the world of First Amendment right to say whatever you want, the freedom of speech, and a lack of accountability for lying. Like, for every system, there is a way to hack that system, no matter what it is. And it feels like people have egregiously and aggressively found loopholes and ways of getting around bold-faced lying and being able to do it with protection. And furthermore, and more depressing, is without consequence. It's just absurd. It doesn't make any sense. And I've been thinking about this, like during the United States election that recently happened. Um, the way people with some huge platforms just make stuff up and spin it for their narrative. And this can be said about both sides. I often hear one side completely accuse the other all the time of being fake news, while there's a lot of fake news going on that particular side as well. And when there's so little fact checking anymore, and when it's really about one thing, money, power, influence, and ratings, all of those kind of mix into one cohesive piece, it again becomes less about truth and representing one's self with honor, but who's going to make the most money, who's going to attract the most attention, who's going to have the most influence and power. And This is a disease. This is a malfunctioning of one of our basic functions in life, which is community and connecting and resourcing each other. We, as monoliths and as individuals, could hardly be able to survive very well on our own. It could happen, but with a lot of effort. And it would also really depend on your ability to manage the unknown as new weather patterns and different things in your location. What level of knowledge do people have that they could actually be out there and do an entire life all by themselves? In the modern era, much easier, right? But let's say we took all the modernity away. What would you be able to do? Would you be able to live off the land all by yourself? I don't know. I think of that movie Castaway or Lost, that TV show. And people are able to do it, but it's usually in community, and it's usually through cooperation and allegiances, making allies, that allows this to happen. Our body itself is a cooperative conglomerate of systems and cells that work together under the management of our mind and our brains. The body specifically reacts to the brain, but the body also responds to the mind. So the brain and the mind work intimately together, but ultimately the mind can really control everything. Now, on a larger scale, if we think about the greater mind or a collective consciousness that develops between a community or a group as they come together, would be a good example of this. Because now we have, say, the United States, or we have these political parties, and they represent different systems in our society, and they're warring with each other. So if they're warring with each other, what's happening to the whole? What's happening to the collective consciousness? It's at war. So each of us are in this collective war, trying to survive, trying to do what's best for us, for ours, and sometimes for the good of all. But it's challenging because there's literally this energetic civil war happening in the personalities, in the people, and the sides and tribal choices that they decide to make. So to rein it in and bring it back together, be responsible with your words. Please, 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 please. If you don't mean it, don't say it. If you say it but didn't mean it, revise it. If you spoke out of turn, admit it. If you said something incorrectly, admit it. Right? We're in this day and age where people get to make up stories about themselves and sell it to people and get to ride the waves of the lie. That only works for so long. It takes so much energy and it takes so much effort to maintain. I mean, Donald Trump, love him or hate him, doesn't have to tell people the truth about what he wants to do, about who he is, and yet he can still get them to buy the brand that has been sold, which seems to be people taking whatever it is they want and leaving the rest. And it blows my mind that this is even possible. However, um, it's more a testament to the power of our reticular activating system, that we only see what we're looking for. We only see what we want to see. And it's usually based around our belief system and worldview. And in that reticular activating system, part of the brain, the body filters out what the mind is receiving with regards to the perceptive field in front of them. So oftentimes you'll only hear things in the way that you are in that moment. So if you're angry, you hear things in an angry way. If you're sad, you hear things in a sad way. Conversely, if you're looking to find fault in somebody because you think they are faulty, that is all you're going to receive from them. Conversely, if you think somebody, or have come to believe that somebody is going to rescue and save you, everything they say will be filled with hope. And that's what you will be receiving. So How do we deal with this? Well, if we're only receiving that which we are, if we are dedicated to integrity, then that's what we will be giving and receiving. And oftentimes, people who are out of integrity won't be able to get within our perceptive field, or if they do, we can easily call bullshit. And so I've never had trouble identifying Donald Trump as a particular entity. From the first time that I really understood who he was, the first time I saw him probably was watching uh, Home Alone 2. But I remember seeing when I was 16 this Lifestyles in the Rich and Famous episode, and he was so excited to share that he was getting gold plated sinks and toilets because it was a tax write off. And all I could think of as a 16-year-old was, wow, there's people starving, and this dude is worried about being gloatful, you know, that he's getting a tax cut because he chose to put gold on his planes. And this was after I had learned too that he had filed bankruptcies. So I just found it very stark. And so I, at the time, was very integrated with who I was. I was very much in the flow of following my senses and my internal guidance, which has gotten me in trouble since then. But I knew who he was then. And so I can call BS when I see him up there talking. What hurts my soul is listening to other people with huge platforms, but partisanly and biasly promoting stuff so that we keep having this separation. And so we get these radicals on both ends of the spectrum who talk the loudest and feed their side and feed their tribe what it is that they're thinking and feeling. And it just keeps spinning out further and further. And if Ayurveda and yoga has taught us anything, it's to bring things back into balance. It's to bring things back to that center point, that calm, choiceless awareness in which all of the universe is around us and within us, but we aren't focusing on any one point and therefore are peaceful and perfected in our ease in living. So, my friends, I hope this was helpful. Be responsible out there, be in integrity, and integrity will come back to you. Be well and be free.